Along now, our first competitors in the yard. Judges are on their way. So number 1, Pete Comiskey on Harry. Number 2, Hugh Miles on Time's Up. Number 3, Mark Buttsworth on Branchvale Exile. Number 4, Troy Palmer on Hells Are Comin'. And number 5, Ben McNaughton on Courtney.
Pretty good, thanks.
Oh, you've been on the other side all week?
Oh, no, I started there and then I'm just doing the circle.
Have you been up the top?
Yeah, I did all that yesterday up the top. It was all right. Different again, looking at it.
Okay, everyone's in place down there. Our first competitor needs no introduction. Number 1, Pete Comiskey on Harry. Pete's from Nebo in Queensland. He'll be followed by number 2, Hugh Miles on Time's Up. Number 3, Mark Buttsworth on Branchvale Exile.
You all right, Dano? Righto, Pete.
So here we go, competitor number 1, Pete Comiskey, the semi-final of the Gold Buckle Campdraft here at Willinga Park. And Pete Comiskey now, competitor number 1 on this beautiful morning here at Willinga. Around the first peg with Harry on this beautiful Campdraft arena. Does the changeover, around the second peg they come. Looking to step a little closer to the big final here this evening. So Pete Comiskey and Harry, they do the crossover, 3 out of 4 for the course. And that must be time, so that's competitor number 1.
The score for Pete and Harry, a 22, a 3 and a 52.67 for a 77.67. In camp now, number 2, Hugh Miles on Time's Up. Hugh's from Tamworth in New South Wales. He'll be followed by number 3, Mark Buttsworth on Branchvale Exile. Number 4, Troy Palmer on Hells Are Comin'. 5, Ben McNaughton on Courtney. And 6, Peter Cookson on Paradise.
Calls for the gate now, number 2, U Miles with times up and lines up the first peg. So U Miles now comes back around towards the first peg and times up. Comes around now the Pole Hereford steer, the Chestnut Baldy. Gets around the second peg. Just inside, he's back on track. 3 out of 4. Can he line things up for the gate? There goes the judge's whips.
A score for you and times up, a 23, a 3 for course and a 48.67 for horsework for a 74.67. In camp now, number 3, Mark Buttsworth on Branch Vale Exile. He's from Kingaroy in Queensland, followed by a 4, Troy Palmer on Hell's A-Comin'.
Mark Buttsworth steps out into the main arena, semi-final of the Gold Buckle. Around the first peg they come. Got the nice free running Pole Hereford steer as well. Does the changeover. 2 points for the first peg. Tightens things up around the second. Can he keep things going forward now? Going to ride hard, changes over, rides a little harder now to try and line things up for the gator. Things are looking very good and are perfect. Things are perfect there for Mark Buttsworth here on this Saturday morning.
So a score for Mark and Branchvale Exile, a 23, a 4 and a 61.67 for an 88.67. In camp now, number 4, Troy Palmer on Hell's A-Comin', so Willinga Park horse. Troy is from Coolah. He'll be followed by number 5, Ben McNaughton on Courtney, number 6, Peter Cookson on Paradise, 7, Wyatt Young on Metallic Storm.
So Troy Palmer with Hell's A-Comin'. Right up the face of the camp. He calls for the gate. Steps out now into the arena. Troy Palmer now with Hell's A-Comin' and around the first peg. And things are looking pretty good here now for Troy. Comes around. Does the changeover. Tightens things up here now around the second peg. And Hell's A-Comin' says, leave the footwork to me. You just press the buttons. 3 out of 4 for the course. Lets the beast run on. Things are looking good. We could see another full round course. Can they just get it all set up and things look perfect? It's very, very perfect. Troy Palmer with Hell's A-Comin'.
The score for Troy and Hell's A-Comin', a 22, a 4 and a 63 for an 89. In camp now, number 5, Ben McNaughton on Courtney. Ben's from Walker in New South Wales. He'll be followed by number 6, Pete Cookson on Paradise, 7, Wyatt Young on Metallic Storm, 8, Steve Comiskey on Cosca.
So Ben McNaughton makes his selection with Courtney. Calls for the gate. They swing open wide and he's out into the main arena. Ben McNaughton now sets things up for the first peg. And around they come. About to do the check. Just lets the beast run on. And once again, a wonderful line of the pole Hereford steers here at Willinga. Ben McNaughton just sits back a little bit, lets the steer run on around the second peg. 3 out of 4 for the course. Just sits back a little more, moves up. Things are looking pretty good here for Ben McNaughton, and it is very good again.
The score for Ben McNaughton and Courtney, a 21, a 4 and a 60 for an 85. In camp now, number 6, Peter Cookson on Paradise. Peter's from Dirranbandi in Queensland. He'll be followed by number 7, Wyatt Young on Metallic Storm, 8, Steve Comiskey on Costa, 9, Tash Carlin on Hunter, and 10, David Thorne on One Hell of a Time.
Peter Cookson now with Paradise. Comes out and he's got a fast one, but Paradise has got it all under control now. Round the first peg they sail. They'll do the changeover. And tightens it up around the second peg. Peter Cookson. 3 out of 4 for the course now. Rise towards the gate. Can they make it 4 out of 4 for the course? And Paradise and PJ Cookson, and just slips down the side.
The score for Peter and Paradise, a 21, a 3 and a 58.67 for an 82.67. In camp now, number 7, Wyatt Young from Tamworth in New South Wales, riding Metallic Storm. He'll be followed by number 8, Steve Comiskey on Costa, 9, Natasha Carlin on Hunter, and 10, David Thorne on One Hell of a Time.
So Wyatt Young now with a Metallic Storm. And goes for it now around the first peg. Got himself a pretty fast running one. Oh, and it's just going to come in on the top side of the first peg. So there'll be a cutout score there only for Wyatt Young and Metallic Storm.
The score for Wyatt and Metallic Storm of 22. In camp now, number 8, Steve Comiskey from Capella in Queensland. He'll be followed by number 9, Natasha Carlin on Hunter, 10, David Thorne on One Hell of a Time, and 11, Jay Charnock on Hollywood Pepto.
So Steve Kaminsky now with Costa, number 8 in the semi-final. Out into the main arena now, around the first peg. Costa, ridden by Steve Kaminsky, and is going to cut in on the top side.
A score for Stephen Costa of 21.67. In camp now, number 9, Natasha Carlin on Hunter. Natasha's from Galarganbone in New South Wales. She'll be followed by number 10, Dave Thorne on One Hell of a Time, 11, Jay Charnock on Hollywood Pepto, 12, Lockie Sim on Caribbean Cruise.
So number 9 in the semi-final, Natasha Carlin. And just gets a tricky move there as well and is ducked out the other way, so goes out with a cutout score only in the semi-final.
A score of 20 for Tash and Hunter. In camp, number 10, David Thorne on One Hell of a Time. Dave's from Wollongbean in New South Wales. He'll be followed by number 11, Jay Charnock on Hollywood Pepto, 12, Lockie Sim on Caribbean Cruise, 13, Tim Hollis on Adios Envy.
David Thorne now. And things are looking pretty good here for the first peg, and it's a perfect now. Very tight indeed. David Thorne with One Hell of a Time. 2 points for the first peg. Left-hand course here in the semi-final. Around the second peg, David Thorne just sits back a little bit, let the beast run on and round, and they cross the centre line again for 3 out of 4 for the course. Now the Polaris steer just has a little bit of a look at himself at the big screen as he goes by. David Thorne, can they get it together? And he's just going to come on the inside of the gate.
A score for Dave and One Hell of a Time, a 22.67, a 3 and a 58.67 for Horsework for an 84.33. In camp now, number 11, Jay Charnock on Hollywood Pepto. Jay's from Bulahdelah in New South Wales. He'll be followed by number 12, Lockie Sim on Caribbean Cruise, number 13, Tim Hollis on Adios Envy, and 14, John Mulcahy on Just an Acre.
So Jay Charnock, Hollywood Pepto, calls for the gate. And out onto the arena. Here we go, Jay Charnock. And around the first peg. Nice and tight. Moves up now, just pushes that steer around. They do the crossover. And the steer says this is a beautiful morning to go for a nice big gallop around here. It's beautiful Campdraft arena here at Wallinga Park. Around the second peg. And the steer says this just feels so good. And Jay Charnock says this even feels better. Straight down through the gate. So a good run there for Jay Charnock with Hollywood Pepto.
The score for Jay and Hollywood Pepto, excuse me, a 22.33, a 4 for course, and a 61.67 for Horsework for an 88. In camp now, number 12, Lockie Sim on Caribbean Cruise. Lockie's from Holbrook in New South Wales. He'll be followed by number 13, Tim Hollis on Adios Envy, 14, John Mulcahy on Just an Acre, and 15, Dean Rogers on Archie.
So Lockie Sim now, number 12 in the semi-final. The Caribbean Cruise, and they do just that. They cruise around the first peg. Lockie Sim now, they do the changeover. And around the second peg, they cruise again. Just sits back now and lets the steer run on a little. Now he's going hard now for the gates. What can they do with it here now? Can he turn him back around? Turns, and can he turn it back in? But down the far side of the gate.
The score for Lockie and Caribbean Cruise, a 20.67, a 3 for course, and a 56.67 for horsework, and 80.33. In camp now is number 13, Tim Hollis on Adios Envy. Tim's from Cootamundra in New South Wales. He'll be followed by number 14, John Mulcahy on Just an Acre, 15, Dean Rogers on Archie, and 16, Nigel Cable on Bandana.
So Tim Hollis, Adios Envy. Out onto the main arena now. Tim Hollis around the first peg. Nice and tight. Does the changeover now. Round the second. Just sits back a little bit now to let the beast run on. Tim Hollis just doing a little bit of zigzagging there, lines up the gate, and it looks like it'll be 4 out of 4 in the hands of our Campdraft judges. And Ian Laurie, Dean Taylor and Trader Wilson.
A score of 16, a 4 and a 61.33 for an 81.33 for Tim and Adios Envy. In the camp now, number 14, John Mulcahy on Just an Acre from Roma in Queensland. He'll be followed by number 15, Dean Rogers on Archie, 16, Nigel Cable on Bandana, and 17, Pete Bolton on Nandai Reflex.
John Mulcahy now, number 14. Around the first peg. Puts him back over the centre line. They'll go now, tighten things up around the second peg. John Mulcahy says, now I'll just sit a little tiny bit and just give him a little bit of extra room. Sits in behind and just follows him now and starts to move up and gets things set for the gate, looking for 4 out of 4. And he's going to get it today on this Saturday morning here at Willinga Park. Looks all good from here.
A score for John and Just an Acre, 22, 4 and a 62.67 for an 88.67. In camp now is number 15, Dean Rogers on Archie. Dean's from Willumbla in New South Wales. He'll be followed by 16, Nigel Cable on Bandana, 17, Pete Bolton on Nandai Reflex, and 18, Ben Hall on Traditional Acres.
So number 15, Dean Rogers now. Around the first peg. Do the changeover. Around the second. Dean Rogers now just trying to get himself set for make it 4 out of 4. Can he line it up? Things are looking pretty good for Archie and Dean Rogers, and it looks very, very good.
Score for Dean and Archie, a 22, a 4 and a 62.33 for an 88.33. In camp now, number 16, Nigel Cable on bandana. Nigel's from Rydal in New South Wales. He'll be followed by 17, Pete Bolton on Nandai Reflex, 18, Ben Hall on Traditional Acres, and 19, Kimberley Salmon on Juliet's Romeo.
So number 16 in the semi-final, Nigel Cable with bandana. And he's got a tricky one this morning. Just gives him a bit of a bump and puts him back down here towards the first peg. Comes around it now as the steer has a look at the VW sign. So bad luck there for Nigel and bandana.
The score for Nigel and bandana, a 19.67. So in camp now, we have number 17, Pete Bolton on Nandai Reflex. Pete's from Hayfield in Victoria. He'll be followed by number 18, Ben Hall on Traditional Acres, 19, Kimberley Salmon on Juliet's Romeo, and 20, Ken McCarthy on Badger.
Hey, Joy, hey, fellas,
Coming in,
coming. They're pretty good how they just rolled straight out the back too, aren't they? Yeah. It's not even, I don't want to hang with my mates, I'm just out of here.
Number 17 now, Peter Bolton, Nandai Reflex. As they set sail out around the first peg here in the Campdraft Arena, the semi-final of the Gold Buckle for 2021, and around the first peg. They do the changeover. Round the second. 3 out of 4 for the course. Takes it to the back of the gate. Things are looking pretty good here now for Peter Bolton, and it looks very good.
The score for Pete and Nandai Reflex, a 22, a 4 and a 62.67 for an 88.67. In camp now is number 18, Ben Hall on Traditional Acres. Ben's from Muddaborough in Queensland. He'll be followed by number 19, Kimberley Salmon on Juliet's Romeo, 20, Ken McCarthy on Badger, and 21, Jim Lawton on Orchie.
Ben Hall now out on course. Comes around the first peg. Ben Hall, Traditional Acres, do the changeover and he'll try and tighten it right up around the second peg. And he just sits back now and lets the steer run on. Goes up via the big screen. Ben Hall puts him around the back of the gate. And it looks all good from here.
Score for Ben and Traditional Acres, a 22.33, a 3 for course and a 55 for horsework for an 80.33. In camp now, number 19, Kimberley Salmon on Juliet's Romeo. Kimberley's from Bow Desert in Queensland. Should be followed by number 20, Ken McCarthy on Badger, 21, Jim Lawton on Orchie, and 22, Carl Green on J-Lo.
Number 19 now, Kimberley Salmon with Juliet's Romeo. And they float out around the first peg. Kimberley Salmon. They get 2 points for the first peg. They do the changeover, looking for the extra point now for the second peg. Kimberley Salmon now gets 3 out of 4. They makes their way down, looking to try and make it 4 out of 4. And Kimberley Salmon's got the eyesight 100% this morning.
A score for Kimberley and Juliet's Romeo, a 22.33, a 4 for course and a 62 for horsework, giving her an 88.33. In camp now, number 20, Ken McCarthy on Badger. Ken's from Kempsey in New South Wales. He'll be followed by number 21, Jim Lawton on Orchie, 22, Carl Green on J-Lo, and 23, Matt Durkin on Joe.
Well, Ken McCarthy now with Badger. Out onto the main arena. First aid, please. First aid. First aid people there, please. First aid people, please, immediately to the arena. The first aid people. So the first aid people to the Campdraft arena immediately, please.
Hi, my name is Eric Lowy. I'm a veterinary surgeon at Willinga Park. So I graduated in the Netherlands at the University of Utrecht in 1998. I saw some practice as a student at the end of my studies, and practice I visited in the UK offered me a job, and sort of when I graduated I went straight to the UK to practice, which was sort of specialised in reproduction or stud medicine, which sort of probably incorporates a bit more than just sort of looking at mares. So we saw a lot of mares, foals, stallions and all their related problems. That practice had a reciprocal arrangement with a practice in Australia. So my passion is reproduction, but I've sort of also spent a lot of time sort of dealing with foals, foal-related problems, if it is conformation or internal medicine. So sort of the surgical aspects of that sort of we've built a lot of expertise with as well. The last number of seasons we already did a little bit of work for Willinga Park, and fortunately sort of we were successful in delivering the results Willinga Park was after. I think we've built up a sort of a great reputation in Warwick in sort of getting mares which have been difficult or in the past sort of haven't been delivering for owners sort of the result they were after. So sort of through the years we've sort of really built on that sort of success. We've managed to deliver to all those clients. This year we got quite a number of mares from Willinga, but also from clients which had sort of very valuable mares which Willinga invested in. I think we may be looking at 15 or 16 mares. Some mares will go straight in foal, other mares will try to attempt to get one embryo from, and some mares will maybe try to get multiple embryos from. I've been fortunate enough to sort of visit a lot of places sort of all over the world, and I think what's happening here is on a level that very few people can imagine, and we're feeling very fortunate to be part of this.
Some say we've got engine oil in our veins. After all, it takes some rare skills to settle a wild ute. And those that visit this place, well, they're transformed. Almost as much as the V6 Amaroks. You've got to see it to believe it. The only ute reared for the road.
and buy our cars. Come and buy our cars. Yellow cars, red cars, fast cars.
You've lost him, Gary. Another one sold on the Amarok V6.
Hard not to be with 3 years free scheduled servicing across the Amarok V6 range. Would you look at that grin?
I hope he runs out of petrol.
It's diesel.
Shut it.
Get some Volkswagen end of financial year satisfaction with the Amarok V6 Auto from $49,990 drive away.
White's nice.
Well, that's all we wanted to see. Ken McCarthy up on his feet again. And we'll catch up with you a little bit later on, Ken, and make sure things are going okay. And we'll move on to number 21, Jim Lawton with Orchie.
Jim's from Finley in New South Wales. He'll be followed by number 22, Carl Green on J-Lo, 23, Matt Durkin on Joe, and 24, Bill Carey on Imprint.
So number 21 now, Jim Lawton with Orchie. And they set sail out around the first peg here in the semi-final. The dun-coloured horse in the Pole Hereford steer. And going to get away on him on the second peg. So we'll go out with a cut-out score only.
So a score of 21 for Jim and Orchie. Number 22 in camp now is Carl Green on J-Lo from Walker in New South Wales. He'll be followed by number 23, Matt Durkin on Joe, 24, Bill Carey on Imprint, and 25, Felicity Burton on El Sol Array.
So Carl Green now with J-Lo. Out on course. And just going to cut short of the first peg. And there goes the stock whips.
The score for Carl and J-Lo of 21.33. In camp now, number 23, Matt Durkin on Joe from Taroom in Queensland. He'll be followed by number 24, Bill Carey on Imprint, 25, Felicity Burton on El Sol Array, and 26, BJ Thorburn on Nandai Reaction.
So Matt Durkin with Joe makes his selection, works up to the face of the camp, calls for the gates, and out into the main arena. Matt Durkin now with Joe. Bends the beast back down around the top side of the first peg. They float down around the bottom. Crosses the line over. Round the second peg now. Matt Durkin with Joe. That's the Pole Hereford cross steer, just run on a little. Turns him around towards the gate and looking pretty good this morning in the semi-final. Matt Durkin with Joe.
So a score there for Matt and Joe, a 22.33, a 4 for course and a 59.67 for horsework, giving him an 86. In camp now is number 24, Bill Carey on imprint. Bill's from Gundawindi in Queensland. He'll be followed by 25, Felicity Burton on El Sol Array, 26, BJ Thorburn on Nandai Reaction, and 27, Rodney Crump on Fancy Ray Duck.
So Bill Carey now with imprint. Gates open. Out on centre stage, Bill Carey. And they come down around the first peg. 2 points for the first peg. Tightens things up coming around the second peg here now. Bill Carey just sits back a little bit now, lets the steer run on. Things are looking pretty good. Here we go, Bill Carey with imprint.
And a score for Bill and imprint, a 22, a 4 and a 63.67 for an 89.67, which I believe might put him at the top of the leaderboard so far. So in camp now we have 25, Felicity Burton on El Sol Array. Felicity's from Brimaroo in Queensland. She'll be followed by number 26, BJ Thorburn on Nandai Reaction, 27, Rodney Crump on Fancy Ray Duck, and 28, Adam Sadler on Relda's Raven Acres.
Felicity Burton now, number 25. And they come out around the first peg. Felicity Burton just sits back and lets the Pole Hereford steer run on. And once again, another beautiful line of the Pole Hereford steers for the semi-final here at Willinga. Around the second peg. So they get the 3 out of 4 for the course. And Felicity will be looking to line things up to make it 4 out of 4, and things are looking very good for Felicity. And the Pole Hereford steer says it feels good.
The score for Felicity and El Sol Array, a 22, a 4 and a 62.67 for an 88.67. In camp now is number 26, BJ Thorburn on Nandai Reaction. BJ's from Gifford West in Victoria. He'll be followed by a number 27, Rodney Crump on Fancy Ray Duck, 28, Adam Sadler on Relda's Raven Acres, and 29, Hugh Miles on Chick Acres. Unfortunately, that's a no score there for BJ and Nandai Reaction. In camp now is number 27, Rodney Crump on Fancy Ray Duck. Rodney's from South Maroota in New South Wales. He'll be followed by number 28, Adam Sadler on Relda's Raven Acres, 29, Hugh Miles on Chick Acres, and 30, Pete Comiskey on Just Jim.
So number 27 now, Rodney Crump with Fancy Ray Duck. And we'll go out with a cutout score only in the semi-final.
A cutout of 21 for Rodney and Fancy Ray Duck. In camp now is number 28, Adam Sadler on Relda's Raven Acres. Adam's from Bunnan in New South Wales. He'll be followed by number 29, Hugh Miles on Chick Acres, 30, Pete Comiskey on Just Jim, and 31, Leah Whitehead on Hazelwood Decks.
Sure has. Questionable good decision to take the jacket off. Hello.
So Adam Sadler calls for the gate. Out in the big paddock, around the first peg. Adam Sadler with Relda's Raven Acres, and is going to cut in on the top side, so we'll go out with a cutout score only in the semi-final.
The score for Adam and Relda's Raven Acres, a 20.67 for his cutout. In camp now is number 29, Hugh Miles on Chick Acres. Hugh's from Tamworth in New South Wales. He'll be followed by 30, Pete Comiskey on Just Jim, 31, Leah Whitehead on Hazelwood Decks, and 32, Scott Bandy on Hazelwood Coburn. There'll be a cattle change after Scott's run, ready for number 33, Luke Bennett on Stereo Cat.
So Hugh Miles now with Chick Acres.
Hey, Ian, we might take that steer out, eh? Yep.
So a score there for Hugh and Chick Acres, 16. In camp now, number 30, Pete Comiskey on Just Jim, one of our Queensland competitors from Nebo.
Fella on the
At the gate is 31, Leah Whitehead on Hazelwood Decks, 32, Scott Bandy on Hazelwood Coburn. Fresh pen of cattle then for 33, Luke Bennett on Stereo Cat.
Back there.
Number 30 now, Pete Kaminsky with Just Jim. And we'll go out with a cutout score only in the semi-final.
So a score there for Pete and Just Jim of 22. In camp, number 31, Leah Whitehead on Hazelwood Decks. Leah's from Mummel in New South Wales. She'll be followed by number 32, Scott Bandy on Hazelwood Coburn, otherwise known as Rooster. And then 33, Luke Bennett on Stereo Cat.
Oh, you mongrel.
Unfortunately, no score there for Leah and Dex. In camp now, number 32, Scott Bandy on Hazelwood Coburn, aka Rooster. Scott's from Toomer in New South Wales. There will be a cattle flush after Scott, and then we'll go on with number 33, Luke Bennett on Stereo Cat, 34, Julie Duff on Raving About This Hat, and 35, Mark Buttsworth on Electric Duck.
So number 32 now, Scott Bandy with Hazelwood Coburn. So Scott Bandy now, number 32 in the semi. Round the first peg. They make their way. And round the second. Scott just sits back and lets the steer run on. Things are looking pretty good. And down through the gate.
So a score there for Scott and Rooster of 14.33, a 4 for course and a 57.67 for horsework, a total of 76 points. So we'll just wait for a fresh pen of cattle and we'll go on with 33, Luke Bennett on Stereo Cat. Luke's from Dundee in New South Wales. He'll be followed by 34, Julie Duff, Raving About This Hat, 35, Mark Buttsworth on Electric Duck, and 36, Bronwyn Upjohn on Telly.
Yeah, he was right up there. No, this is like, yep, all back to scratch. But this score is important because I carry it time.
So Luke Bennett, Stereo Cat, out onto the Campdraft arena and very smartly make their way around the first peg. Luke Bennett, they do the changeover, tighten things up around the second peg here now. And got the lovely free-running Pole Hereford steer. They do the changeover. They're going for the big points, and a very quick gate is going to come off too. Nice there run for Luke Bennett and Stereo Cat.
A score there for Luke and Stereo Cat, a 22, a 4 and a 64.67 for a 90.67, putting him straight up to the lead at this stage. In camp, number 34, Julie Duff on Raving About This Hat. Julie's from Manila in New South Wales. She'll be followed by number 35, Mark Buttsworth on Electric Duck. 36, Bronwyn Upjohn on Telly, and 37, Troy Palmer on J-Bell Shakira Spin.
So Julie Duff makes her way out around the first peg. And around the first peg they come. Raving About This Hat. And we'll be raving about the second peg as well. Julie Duff now lets the beast run on. Now she's going to have to ride pretty hard now. Can they do it? Can they do it? Can they do it? Yes, they can. Looks good from here.
The score for Julie and Raving About This Hat, a 22, a 4 and a 62.33 for an 88.33. In camp, number 35, Mark Buttsworth on Electric Duck. Mark's from Kingaroy in Queensland. He'll be followed by number 36, Bronwyn Upjohn on Telly, 37, Troy Palmer on J-Bell Shakira Spin, and 38, Chrissy French on Pixie Duck.
Calls for the gate now, and Mark Buttsworth with Electric Duck. Now make their way out around the first peg. Does the changeover. Tightens it up now around the second peg. Electric Duck with Mark Buttsworth. Just sits in behind, goes towards the gate. Can they line things up? It's looking pretty good. And Electric Duck's got it all under control with Mark Buttsworth.
A score for Mark and Electric Duck, a 23.33, a 4 for course, a 61 for horsework, giving him an 88.33. In camp now, we have number 36, Bronwyn Upjohn on Telly. Bronwyn's from Kilmore in Victoria. She'll be followed by number 37, Troy Palmer on J-Bell Shakira Spin, 38, Chrissy French on Pixie Duck, and 39, Jessie Rowan on Spin Man.
So Bronwyn Upjohn with Telly call for the gate. And they set sail out around the first peg. So 2 points for the first peg, 1 point for the second peg. They do the changeover, make their way around the second peg. Bronwyn Upjohn with Telly. Just sits in behind. Well, that was Bronwyn Upjohn with Telly.
A score for Bronwyn and Telly, a 21.33. In camp now is number 37, Troy Palmer on J-Bell Shakira Spin. Troy's from Cooler in New South Wales. He'll be followed by number 38, Chrissy French on Pixie Duck. 39, Jesse Rowan on Spin Man. And 40, Trav Bandy on Hazelwood Weapon.
So Troy Palmer, Jabel Shakira Spin. Up the face of the camp, calls for the gate. And outside now. They set things up for the first peg and things are looking, very fine around the first peg. Jabel Shakira Spin with Troy Palmer in the saddle. Does the crossover around the second peg. A very tight first peg it was. Just sits in behind now to let the steer run on. And he's going to try and take a very short cut and he's going to go to the gate. And can they wind it up? And straight down the middle it comes. Troy Palmer, Jabel Shakira Spin.
A score for Troy and Shakira Spin, a 21.33, a 4 for course and a 62.33 for horsework, giving him an 87.67. In camp now, number 38, Chrissy French on Pixie Duck. She'll be followed by 39, Jesse Rowan on Spin Man. Chrissy and Pixie Duck are from Nimity Bell in New South Wales.
Number 38 now, Chrissy French with Pixie Duck. As they make their way around the first peg here in the semi-final of the Gold Buckle Camp Draft, brought to you with the compliments of Volkswagen. And around the second peg, Chrissy French. Just sits back and lets the beast run on. So 3 out of 4 for the course. Can Chrissy French wind things and turn back around? And is going to go down the far side of the gate peg.
She was damned if she did and damned if she didn't there. A score there for Chrissy and Pixie Duck, a 21, a 3 and a 55 for a 79. In camp now, you're watching 39, Jesse Rowan from Bow Desert in Queensland on Spin Man.
Jesse Rowan now, out on centre stage. And around the first peg, they make their way. The Palomino and the Pole Hereford steer. They do the changeover now for the second peg. And the Pole Hereford steer's got plenty of running in him. She changes back over now. Steers him towards the gate.
A score for Jesse and Spin Man, a 22.67, a 3 for course and a 54.67 for horsework for an 80.33. In camp now, number 40, Trav Bandy on Hazelwood Weapon. Trav's from Toomer in New South Wales. He's followed by 41, Rod Jackson on Jackson's Imogen, 42, Michael Kelly on Splinter, and 43, Luke Hardwick on Dolly.
So Travis Bandy is number 40 now with Hazelwood Weapon, and we'll go out with a cutout score only here in the semi-final.
Of 19.67 for Trav and Hazelwood Weapon. In camp now is number 41, Rod Jackson on Jackson's Imogen. He's from Stacey's Bridge in Victoria. He'll be followed by number 42, Michael Kelly on Splinter, 43, Luke Hardwick on Dolly, and 44, Phil Collins on Bob Jane.
So number 41 now, Rod Jackson with Jackson's Imogen. And got a very fast one. It's going to go straight out and around over the back of the Campdraft arena for Rod Jackson.
A score for Rod and Jackson's Imogen, a 20.67. In camp now, number 42, Michael Kelly on Splinter. He's from Myrtlebank, Victoria. He'll be followed by number 43, Luke Hardwick on Dolly, 44, Phil Collins on Bob Jane, and 45, Natasha Carlin on Salty Banks.
Michael Kelly now with Splinter, number 42 in the semi-final.
The score for Michael and Splinter is 20.67. So in camp now we have number 43, Luke Hardwick from Heskett in Victoria, riding Dolly. He'll be followed by 44, Phil Collins on Bob Jane, 45, Natasha Carlin on Salty Banks, and 46, Ben McNaughton on Tiptoe.
Competitors in the semi-final, just take note, due to the fall that Skip McCarthy had there earlier. If anyone's got any objections, Tim is going to ride his horse, the other horse. So if any competitor's got any objections, just come and see Laura here alongside the camp, please. You have 10 minutes. If anyone's got any objections about Tim McCarthy riding Skippy McCarthy's other nomination, come and see Laura alongside the camp, please. You have 10 minutes. Number 43 now, Luke Hardwick with Dolly. Out on course, around the first peg they sail. Round the second peg. So looking for 3 out of 4. And makes his way to back of the Campdraft arena here now and try and puts the turn on the steer. try and line things up for the gate, but he's not going to just line it up quite correctly this morning.
A score for Luke and Dolly of 21.33, a 3 for course and a 57 for horsework for an 81.33. In camp now is number 44, Phil Collins from Bombala in New South Wales, riding Bob Jane. He'll be followed by number 45, Natasha Carlin on Salty Banks, 46, Ben McNaughton on Tiptoe, and 47, Damien Ventry on Pine Tor Matrix.
So Philip Collins, Bob Jane, call for the gate. The gates open up and out onto the arena. Philip Collins, and gets a very fast one here at Willinga Park here on this Saturday morning.
A score for Phil and Bob Jane of 22.33. In camp now, 45, Natasha Carlin on Salty Banks. Natasha's from Galarganbone in New South Wales. She'll be followed by 46, Ben McNaughton on Tiptoe, 47, Damien Ventry on Pine Tor Matrix, and 48, Nick Taylor on Scandalous.
So in the sport of camp drafting and the cattle camp, where the competitor will cut out a beast and indicate to our judge of a possible score of 26 points. Here today at Willinga Park in the semi-final, it's a left-hand course, and that is out of a possible score of 70 points. 2 points for the first peg, 1 point for the second peg, and 1 for the gate, which are the 2 pegs closest together. So with a 26, a 70 for horsework, and 4 points for the course, is out of a possible score of 100 points. So we go now with Natasha Carlin with Salty Banks, and is going to just cut short of the first peg, and there goes the stock whips from our camp draft judges. And our camp draft judges for the Gold Buckle Championship camp draft, Ian Laurie, Dean Taylor and Trader Wilson.
A score of 20 there for Natasha and Salty Banks. In camp now, we have number 46, Ben McNaughton on Tiptoe. Ben's from Walker in New South Wales. He's followed by number 47, Damien Ventry on Pine Tor Matrix.
Ben McNaughton now with Tiptoe, number 46 in the semi-final, as they make their way around the first peg, and Tiptoe. So we'll just tiptoe around the cross here at the moment, and they're going to tiptoe a little bit quicker around the second peg. Ben McNaughton just sits back now and lets the Hereford steer run on. Heads towards the gate. Tiptoe has got it all under control this morning, and Ben McNaughton in the saddle.
A score for Ben and Tiptoe, a 21, a 4 and a 63.33 for an 88.33. In camp now is number 47, Damien Ventry on Pine Tor Matrix. Damien's another Bombala competitor. At the gate is 48, Nick Taylor on Scandalous, 49, Stephen Darmody on Castida Drover, and 50, Bruce McNaughton on Little Acre.
Damien Ventry now out in the main arena as they make their way towards the first peg, and they're going to cut it short.
A A score for Damien and Pinetour Matrix of 22. In camp now, we have number 48, Nick Taylor on Scandalous. Nick is from Victoria. A little town called Wollongaruk. I think that's how you pronounce it. At the gate is Stephen Darmody on Castita Drover and 50 Bruce McNaughton on Little Acre.
Number 48 now, Nick Taylor with Scandalous out around the first peg and cuts it very fine too indeed. So Nick Taylor round the first peg. He'll do the changeover now, right hard for the second peg, and he tightens it up around the second peg also. So Nick Taylor with Scandalous. Sits back, lets the beast run on, and he's going to ride hard now. They're trying to wind up the turn the beast back around over the gate. Can he wind it all up? Can he wind it all up? Unlucky here on this Saturday morning.
A score there for Nick and Scandalous, a 20, a 3 and a 59 for an 82. In the camp now is number 49, Steve Darmody on Castita Drover. Steve's from Bungendore in New South Wales. He'll be followed by number 50, Bruce McNaughton on Little Acre. 51, Steve Comiskey on Lyra Park Sidma. And 52, Alan Sinclair on One More Pleasure.
So Stephen Darmody calls for the gates and open up out into the big paddock. Stephen Darmody with Drover. Comes around the first peg. They do the crossover. 2 points for the first peg, looking for the point for the second peg. They do the crossover now. So 3 out of 4. Makes his way towards the gate. Can he get over there before the 42nd runs out? Lines it up, can he? And down the far side.
The score for Stephen Drover, a 20, a 3 and a 54.33 for a 77.33.
So any competitors that have got any objections of Tim McCarthy riding Skip McCarthy's other horse in the semi-final, you have 5 minutes left to report to Laura Lawrence. So any competitors got any objections, you have 5 minutes to report to Laura here alongside the cattle camp of Tim riding Skippy McCarthy's other nomination.
So in camp, you're watching the Tamworth competitor, Bruce McNaughton on Little Acre. He'll be followed by number 51, Steve Comiskey on Lyra Park Sigma.
Bruce McNaughton now with Little Acre. Makes his way around the first peg. Does the changeover. And Bruce is going to tighten things up around the second peg with Little Acre. Just sits on behind there now. Let's see, now he's going to ride a little bit harder. Things are looking good here now for Little Acre and Bruce McNaughton.
The score for Bruce and Little Acre are 22, a 4 and a 63 for an 89. In camp now, number 51, Steve Comiskey on Lyra Park Sigma. 52, Alan Sinclair on One More Pleasure, and 53, Billy Peden on Bib and Luke Annabelle. Steve and Sigma are from Capella in Queensland.
Number 51 now, Steve Kaminsky, around the first peg with Lara Park Sigma. And they'll do the changeover, and around the second peg they sail. So 3 out of 4 for the course. Steve Kaminsky, Lara Park Sigma, they make their way up, looking for 4 out of 4. It's looking pretty good. Down the middle they come.
A score for Steve and Sigma, a 22, a 4 and a 63.33 for an 89.33. In camp next is 52, Alan Sinclair on One More Pleasure. Alan's from Oldavilla in New South Wales. At the gate is 53, Billy Peden on Bib and Luke Annabelle. 54, Robert Fuller on Cameo, and 55, Hugh Miles on Torelli Treasured Acres.
So Alan Sinclair, One More Pleasure. Round the first peg. They do the crossover. Round the second, they make their way. Just sits back a little bit, lets the beast run on. Now moves up. Alan Sinclair going to take the short cut to the gate. Can he wheel him around? Can he wheel him around? But just down the far side.
A score for Alan and One More Pleasure, 20.67, a 3 for course and a 58 for horsework, giving him an 81.67. In camp now is number 53, Billy Peden on Bib and Luke Annabelle. Billy's from Bib and Luke in New South Wales. At the gate is 54, Robert Fuller on Cameo. 55, Hugh Miles on Torelli Treasured Acres. And 56, Terry Hartman on Barnett's Promise.
Number 53 now, Bill Peden with Bib and Luke Annabelle, as they make their way out around the first peg here in the semi-final of the Volkswagen World Championship Gold Buckle Campdraft here at Willinga Park for 2021. So they've got 2 points for the first peg, and he makes his way out around the second peg. He crosses back around there, so 3 out of 4 for the course. Billy Peden. Can he line things up and put this beast between the two pegs closer together? And down the side of the pegs they will come, so he's...
A score for Billy and Bib and Luke Annabelle, 11.67, a 3 for course and a 54.67 for a 69.33. In camp now is number 54, Robert Fuller on Cameo from Turners Flat, New South Wales. He'll be followed by number 55, Hugh Miles on Torelli Treasured Acres, 56, Terry Hartman on Barnett's Promesse, and 57, Gus Malone on Oakview Isabel.
Once again, many thanks to our sponsors, Volkswagen, PDA Marble and Granite, Netia, Construction Control, Bannisters, O'Neill and Brown, Lennox Motors, His Way Civil, just some of our great sponsors here for the Volkswagen World Championship Gold Buckle Campdraft here at Willinga Park for 2021. So Robert Fuller with Cameo makes his selection, moves up to the face of the camp, calls for the gate, steps out into the arena. Robert Fuller riding Cameo. Down around the first peg they come. They do the crossover there. You get 2 points for the first peg. And the beast is just going to give him the slip and head back towards the back of the arena.
So a score there for Robert and Cameo of 19.33. In camp now is number 55, Hugh Miles on Torelli Treasured Acres. Hugh's from Tamworth, New South Wales. He'll be followed by 56, Terry Hartman on Barnett's Promise, 57, Gus Malone on Oakview Isabel, and 58, David Thorne on Hazelwood Conduct.
Number 55 now, Hugh Miles with Torelli Treasured Acres as they set sail out around the first peg. And another glorious day here at Willinga Park. And they just check back. Hugh Miles, finger touch control, around the second peg they come. Torelli Treasured Acres, Hugh Miles makes it look so easy. Just sits back now. He's going to ride harder now for the try and make it 4 out of 4. What can they do? It's looking pretty good. It's perfect. Down the middle of the pegs they come.
So a score there for Hugh and Torelli Treasured Acres, a 22.67, a 4 for course, and a 63.33 for a 90. Slipping him into second place at this stage. In camp now, number 56, Terry Hartman on Barnett's Promesse. Terry's from Dalby in Queensland. He'll be followed by number 57, Gus Malone on Oakview Isabel, 58, David Thorne on Hazelwood Conduct, and 59, Pete Bolton on Dealmaker. Have I got... Okay, so a little rundown for those viewers at home that are not quite sure exactly how camp drafting works. So the rider in here has just chosen his beast. He's got to stay on that one beast the whole time, even when he has the moment like, uh-oh, I picked the wrong one. Too bad. So he picks that beast and he brings it to the front of the camp and he works it several times to show the judges that he has full control of the animal. He's also teaching that animal to respond to him as he goes outside. And I'll come back and finish the next session in a second.
Okay, Terry Hartman, Barnett's Promise, and going to cut the first peg short, and we'll go with a cutout score only here in the semi-final.
So a score there for Terry on Barnett's Promise of 21. In camp now is number 57, the Tumut competitor, Gus Malone on Oakview Isabel. He'll be followed by 58, David Thorne on Hazelwood Conduct, 59, Pete Bolton on Dealmaker, and 60, Matt Moffat on Bobadil Destiny's Diamond. So to carry on then, once the riders got their beast in control, they've showed the judges how well their horse can work, they call for the gate. It's a left-hand course here at Willinga, so they are aiming to take their beast out the left and around the first peg. Stay tuned.
Gus Malone now with Oakview Isabel. And Isabel and Gus Malone on track around the first peg. They'll do the changeover now. It's like forming a figure eight around the second peg. Gus Malone. They cross back over that centre line for 3 out of 4. Now grade towards the gate. Try and make it 4 out of 4. Looking pretty good for Gus Malone and Isabel. And yes, it looks pretty good from here.
So a score there for Gus and Isabel, a 20.67, a 4 for course and a 62 for horsework for an 86.67. In camp now is number 58, David Thorne on Hazelwood Conduct from Wallenbean in New South Wales. He'll be followed by 59, Pete Bolton on Dealmaker, 60, Matt Moffat on Bobadil's Destiny Diamond, and 61, Dean Rogers on Summer Rain. So to continue on there with explaining the outside course, exactly as Gus and Isabel just did it, out around the left peg, cross over in the centre, out around the second, and then cross over again to come back through the 2 pegs at the back.
So David Thorne now with Hazelwood Conduct. And gets a fast pole Hereford steer here this morning, but wheels him now and back down around the first peg. And Conduct. And working overtime, and can they do it? But no, not today. So we'll go with the cutout score only in the semi-final.
A score of 23 for Dave and Hazelwood Conduct. In camp now is number 59, Pete Bolton on Dealmaker. Pete's from Hayfield in Victoria. Pete's whole family, except his mother Alison, hi to Alison watching at home, is competing here this weekend. I would think it would be pretty special for Ken to be here watching his 4 kids with their partners competing here this weekend. Arena. So following Pete and Dealmaker will be number 60, Matt Moffat on Bobadil Destiny's Diamond, 61, Dean Rogers on Summer Rain, 62, Mark Ruff on Martha.
Number 59 now, Peter Bolton with Dealmaker. Out in the main arena now. Semi-final of the Gold Buckle and round the first peg. Peter Bolton. Oh, and he just sat back a little bit and the steer took advantage of it and we'll go with a cutout score only.
So a score there of 22 for Pete and Dealmaker. In the camp, number 60, Matt Moffat on Bobadil's Destiny Diamond from Gracemere in Queensland. At the gate is 61, Dean Rogers on Summer Rain, 62, Mark Ruff on Martha, 63, John Mulcahy on Stratton TKO.
Matt Moffat now with Bobadil Destiny's Diamond out around the first peg here in the semi-final on this beautiful Saturday morning. They do the changeover. Comes around the second peg. Matt Moffat and Bobadil's Destiny's Diamond. Now he's going to have to ride pretty hard now around, try and get this beast back around and down between the pegs, but he's just going to miss it this morning.
A score for Matt and Bobadil's Destiny's Diamond, a 22.33, a 3 for course and a 59 for horsework for an 84.33. In camp now, number 61, Dean Rogers on Summer Rain from Wallumbilla in New South Wales. He'll be followed by number 62, Mark Ruff on Martha, 63, John Mulcahy on Stratton TKO, and 64, Simon Dobwell on Kaylee Park Pearl.
So number 61 now, Dean Rogers with Summer Rain. Makes his way out around the first peg. Around the first peg now they come. They do the changeover. 2 points for the first peg, 1 for the second peg, and then 1 for the gate for the two pegs close together at the end of the run. So Dean Rogers and Summer Rain, 3 out of 4 at the moment. Heads the beast towards the gate. Can they line things up and make it 4 out of 4? But they're just going to come in short. So Dean Rogers with Summer Rain.
So a score there for Dean and Summer Rain, a 22.67, a 3 for course and a 58 for horsework for an 83.67. In camp now is number 62, Mark Ruff on Martha. They're from Diggers Rest in Victoria. Mark will be followed by number 63, John Mulcahy on Stratton TKO, 64, Simon Dobwell on Kaylee Park Pearl, 65, Jake Marshall on Gazelle. Go, Ruffy.
Mark, number 62 now, Mark Ruff with Martha. And around the first peg they come, and it's all looking very good on track here at the moment. Mark Ruff. Round the first peg.
No, after
They do the changeover and they tighten it up around the second peg. Martha says, leave the footwork to me. You press the buttons when you want to go. Just checks back a little bit now. He's going to ride pretty hard for the gate now. Mark Ruff with Martha. Right around on the beast's shoulders. Campdrafting now. Can he wheel it back down? Can he wheel it back down? And it's just going to go down the far side.
A score for Mark and Martha, a 21.67, a 3 for course and a 59 for horsework, giving him an 83.67. In camp, number 63, John Mulcahy on Stratton TKO. John is from Roma in Queensland. He'll be followed by number 64, Simon Dobble on Cayley Park Pearl. 65, Jake Marshall on Gazelle. 66, Peter Cookson on Avenue. There will then be a cattle change for number 67, Tim Hollis on Adios Florence.
Oh, hang on, Will. Marley, just... Peg's flying over. Yeah, if you want that steer, Marley, or do you want another one? Stick with him.
Boy, that one got hammered before it's likely to fall apart.
Just a slight delay here as we secure the pegs. It's a little breezy here at Willinga now.
Things happen up. Oh, medic.
So once again, many thanks to some of our sponsors, Volkswagen, PDA Marble and Granite, and Cox Architecture. Also O'Neill and Brown. So John Mulcahy now with Stratton TKO. And we'll go out with a cutout score only in the semi-final of the Gold Buckle.
A score for John and Stratton TKO is 21.67. In camp now is number 64, Simon Dobble on Cayley Park Pearl. Simon's from Illabo in New South Wales. At the gate is number 65, Jake Marshall on Gazelle. 66, Peter Cookson on Avenue. A cattle change then for number 67, Tim Hollis on Adios Florence.
So number 64 now, Simon Dodwell, Cayley Park Pearl. Call for the gates and they step out into the main arena here in the semi-final of the Volkswagen World Championship Gold Buckle Campdraft Around the first peg they come. They'll do the changeover. And he's going to tighten it up now around the second peg. Simon Dodwell. Kaylee Park Pearl says, I'll just sit off a little tiny bit. Takes him towards the gate. Comes out of the shade of the trees and looking pretty good for Kaylee Park Pearl and Simon Dodwell.
A score for Simon and Kaylee Park Pearl, a 24, a 4 and a 61 for an 87. In the camp now is 65, Jake Marshall on Gazelle. Jake's from Gunnedah in New South Wales. He'll be followed by number 66, Peter Cookson on Avenue. A cattle change, and 67, Tim Hollis, Adios Florence. 68, Ben Hall on Chisholm's Cash. And 69, Pete Comiskey on Rebel Mama. It's great to see competitors here this weekend from Queensland, New South and Victoria. We've come a long way here to compete for this gold buckle camp draft.
Number 65 now, Jake Marshall with Gazelle. And we'll go out with a cutout score.
A score of 19.67 for Jake and Gazelle. So in camp now we have number 66, Peter Cookson from Dirranbandy in Queensland. Then we'll flush the cattle. Go on with 67, Tim Hollis on Adios Florence. 68, Ben Hall on Chisholm's Cash. And 69, Pete Comiskey on Rebel Mama.
Number 66 now, Peter Cookson with Avenue. And we'll go out with a cutout score only there in the semi-final.
A score there of 22 for Peter and Avenue. In camp now we have number 67, Tim Hollis on Adios Florence. Tim is from Carroll in New South Wales. He'll be followed by number 68, Ben Hall on Chisholm's Cash. 69, Pete Comiskey on Rebel Mama. 70, Ricky Young on Youngster Marnie's Glamour. So to let the viewers at home know that are new to camp drafting and not quite sure what's all happening here with a fresh pen of cattle, every 33 runs we're flushing the pen for the cattle that have been in there since the beginning. Keeps the cattle fresh for the ones that haven't been chosen to go out and have a run. So now Tim is selecting a beast that he think will respond well to his horse, will run nicely outside, give him some nice blocks. There's a lot to selecting the beast that you wish to take. A lot of it comes down to experience. So he's having a look here now and he's seeing which beast responds to his horse, which one turns away. He knows that it's going to listen to him. If he walked up to a beast and it didn't move, he'd move on to the next beast. He would not choose one that just stood there. So they're all bending away nicely from his horse. He's going to choose one that he thinks he can get the best run out of.
So Tim Hollis now with Adios Florence. They step out now onto centre stage. Around the first peg they make their way. Tim Hollis now, 2 points for the first peg. They'll do the changeover. And tighten things up, coming around the second peg. So 3 out of 4 for the course. 2 points for the first peg, 1 for the second. Now you get 1 for the gate that we refer to the gate. The 2 pegs close together and looking pretty good for Adios Florence, ridden by Tim Hollis.
And I think you could safely say Tim made a great selection there in the camp. A score for Tim and Adios Florence, a 21.67, a 4 for course and a 63.33 for horsework, giving him an 89. In camp now, number 68, Ben Hall on Chisholm's Cash. Ben's from Muddaborough in Queensland. He'll be followed by number 69, Pete Comiskey on Rebel Mama, 70, Ricky Young on Young Star Marnie's Glamour, 71, Carl Green on Bushy.
Ben Hall now, Chisholm's Cash, calls for the gates and they open up wide. He steps out into the main arena. Ben Hall gets a fast one and Chisholm's Cash just moves up and gives him a little bit of a bump and turns him back down around for the first peg. He'll just do a little bit of a check up and let the beast run and he'll change over to the other side around the second peg. Just sits back in behind the beast. He says, I can take a little shortcut now and just get him to poke over there and go straight down between the pegs. It's just going to come down the side.
A score for Ben and Chisholm's Cash, a 22.33, a 3 for course and a 54.33 for horsework, giving him a 79.67. In camp now, number 69, Pete Comiskey on Rebel Mama. Pete's from Nebo in Queensland. He'll be followed by number 70, Ricky Young on Young Star Marnie's Glamour, 71, Carl Green on Bushy, and 72, Susie Dynastis on Lily Roan.
So Peter Kaminsky out on course and just cut it just a little too fine. It was going to be a ripping first peg if it come off.
So a 21.33 for Pete and Rebel Mama. In camp now, number 70, Ricky Young on Young Star Marnie's Glamour from Dalby in Queensland. He'll be followed by 71, Carl Green on Bushy, 72, Susie Dynastis on Lily Roan, and 73, Matt Durkin on Twice More.
So Ricky Young now, Marnie's Glamour. Here in the semi-final. And the beast is just going to come in the wrong side of the first peg and we'll go out with a cutout score.
A score of 22.33 for Ricky and Young Star Marnie's Glamour. In the camp now, 71, Carl Green on Bushy. Carl's from Walker in New South Wales. He'll be followed by 72, Susie Dynastis, Lily Roan, 73, Matt Durkin, Twice More, and 74, Bryony Puddicombe on Moulin Rouge.
Just some more of our great sponsors here at Wollonga Park for 2021, the Australian Campdrafting magazine, Ben Mac, ECM Livestock, Familo Excavations, Coastal Concrete Pumping, Ruhide, and Ringers Western. So Carl Green now with Bushy, number 71 in the semi-final. makes his way out around the first peg. Carl Green with Bushy. Comes back to the centre. Does a little bit of a changeover. Now just to wheel the beast. Heads back up there towards the big screen. Comes down around the bottom of the second peg. Carl Green around the second peg now. Going to go straight towards the gate. Can they pull it off? Can they line things up? Carl Green with Bushy. And yes, they can.
A score for Carl and Green and Bushy is 22, a 4 and a 57 for an 83. In the camp now is 72, Susie Dynastis on Lily Roan. Susie's from Yarraman in Queensland. She'll be followed by number 73, Matt Durkin on Twice More, and 74, Bryony Puddicombe, Moulin Rouge, and 75, Mark Buttsworth on Pep's Double Ray.
So Susie Dynastis now with Lily Roan. And they set sail out around the first peg, and it's going to be a nice fine one. And Susie Dynastis says, I timed that to perfection, and now she's going to tighten the second one up as well. Around the second peg, Susie Dynastis now. She'll just sit and let the beast run on. And she says, I hope I can line it all up and get 4 out of 4. She goes there now. She's going to ride Susie Dynastis and Lily Roan. I'll give her a round of applause. Susie Dynastis and Lily Roan.
A score for Susie and Lily Roan, a 21, a 4 and a 63.33 for an 88.33. In camp now, number 73, Matt Durkin from Taroom in Queensland on Twice More. At the gate is 74, Bryony Puddicombe on Moulin Rouge.
Matt Durkin now with Twice More. Gets himself a fast one. And he's going to come in on the top side of the first peg, so cut out score only.
A score for Matt and Twice More, a 23. In camp, number 74, another Queensland competitor, Bryony Puddicombe from Nebo on Moulin Rouge. She'll be followed by 75, Mark Buttsworth on Pep's Double Ray. 76, Lara Garlick on Casper's Heirloom. 77, Jay Sharnock on Julie's Candy Girl. And 78, Jack Gallagher on Lulu.
Bridie Puddicombe now with Moulin Rouge. And they're just going to cut things short here on the first peg in the semi-final.
A score of 17.67 for Bryony and Moulin Rouge. In camp now, number 75, Mark Buttsworth on Pep's Double Ray from Kingaroy in Queensland. Mark will be followed by 76, Lara Garlick on Casper's Heirloom, 77, Jay Charnock on Dooley's Candy Girl, and 78, Jack Gallagher on Lulu.
Number 75 now, Mark Buttsworth. Round the first peg, they make their way. Pep's Double Ray. They'll do the changeover. They got 2 points for the first peg. Looking for another one for the second. Round they come. Makes his way towards the gate. Can they line things up? And yes, they can line it up to perfection.
A score for Mark and Pep's Double Ray, a 23.67, a 4 for course and a 62.33 for horsework, giving him a 90, slipping him into second at this stage. In camp now is number 76, Lara Garlic on Casper's Heirloom. Lara's from Cadell in New South Wales. At the gate is 77, Jay Charnock on Dooley's Candy Girl. 78, Jack Gallagher on Lulu, and 79, Wyatt Young on Binia Milan.
So Lara Garlic makes her way out and got a very fast one and makes her way straight across the arena.
A score for Lara and Casper's Heirloom of 21. In camp now, you're watching number 77, Jay Charnock on Dooley's Candy Girl. Following Jay will be Jack Gallagher. Jay is from Bulahdelah in New South Wales.
So Jay Charnock, they make their way out into the centre arena and around the first peg. And cuts it nice and fine on the bottom side. Does the changeover. Jay Charnock at the controls. Round the second peg. Just sits back, comes back now to let the beast run on, and he might try and take a little shortcut and go straight towards the gate. And down the side they'll come. Jay Charnock with Dooley's Candy Girl.
A score for Jay and Dooley's Candy Girl, a 20.33, a 3 for course and a 56.67 for horsework, giving him an 80. In camp now is number 78, Jack Gallagher from Bundarra in New South Wales on Lulu. He'll be followed by number 79, Wyatt Young on Binia Milan, 80, Coco Wills Allen on Yellow Miss, and 81, Troy Palmer on Binia Impressive Destiny.
Jack Gallagher now with Lulu around the first peg. Camp drafting, Australia's own horse sport. Nowhere else in the world handle cattle like we do here in Australia with the great sport of camp drafting. So that was Jack Gallagher with Lulu.
A score for Jack and Lulu of 20. In the camp now is number 79, Wyatt Young on Binia Milan from Tamworth in New South Wales. At the gate is 80, Coco Wills Allen on Yellow Miss, number 81, Troy Palmer on Binia Impressive Destiny, 82, Ken McCarthy on Le Storm. Apologies, Tim McCarthy on Le Storm. riding in replace of Ken after his fall earlier.
Number 79 now, White Young with Benny up Malane. Around the first peg they sail now. And the pole Hereford steers full of running on this beautiful surface here at Walloonga Park. White Young just tightens it up now around the second peg. He'll just set back a little bit and he'll try and hope for a little bit of a shortcut up to the gate, and then he'll ride very hard. Ride hard now toward the gate, and it's looking pretty good for White Young and Benny Malane.
A score for Wyatt and Benny Malane of 21.33, a 4 for course and a 63 for horsework, giving him an 88.33. In camp now is number 80, Coco Wills Allen on Yellow Miss. Coco's from Coolac in New South Wales. This combination won the ladies' Dash for Cash last night. Coco will be followed by 81, Troy Palmer on Binia Impressive Destiny. 82, Tim McCarthy on Le Storm.
So Coco Wills Allen now with Yellow Miss as they make their way out and around the first peg, and it's going to come in on the top side this morning. So we'll go out with a cutout score only in the semi-final.
A score for Coco and Yellow Miss of 16.33. In camp now, the cooler competitor, Troy Palmer on Binia Impressive Destiny. He'll be followed by 82, Tim McCarthy riding Ken's Entry on Le Storm. 83, Sam Knight on Octavius, and 84, Jim Lawton on Rumba.
So some more of our sponsors: Australian Camp Drafting Magazine, Ben Max, ECM Livestock, Famillo Excavations, Coastal Concrete Pumping and Rawhide. And as Troy Palmer makes his selection right up the face of the camp on Benny Impressive Destiny, calls for the gate, and he steps out onto centre stage here in the semi-final of the Gold Buckle as they make their way around the first peg. Troy Palmer says, I'll just sit back now, let the beast run on, and he'll try and tighten things up around the second peg. 2 out of 4, 3 out of 4. Now he'll ride hard and look for a shortcut to the gate. Troy Palmer, Ken Benny Impressive Destiny, says leave the footwork to me, and rides on by there with Troy Palmer.
A score for Troy and Binia Impressive Destiny, a 22, a 4 and a 63.33 for an 89.33. That'll slip him into 5th place at this stage. In the camp now, you're watching Tim McCarthy on Le Storm. Tim's taking his father's nomination from earlier. At the gate, 83, Sam Knight on Octavius. You go, sorry.
So Tim McCarthy now with Le Storm around the first peg. They'll come back and do the changeover. Things are looking pretty good as Tim McCarthy, Le Storm, floats around the second peg. The Chestnut Bawley, the red and white pole Hereford steer. He rides towards the gate. Can he line things up? Things are looking good. Oh, and it's just split the peg.
A score there for Tim and Lestorm, a 22, a 3 and a 57.67 for an 82.67. I just missed.
Number 83 now, Sam Knight. And luck is not on his side this morning, going to come in below the first peg. So Sam Knight will go out with a cutout score in the semi-final.
So just the last two scores there. A score for Tim McCarthy on Lestorm, a 22, a 3 and a 57.67 for an 82.67. A score for Sam Knight on Octavius, a 20.33. Out on course, you're watching 84, Jim Lawton on Rumba, had a 20.67. And in camp now is 85, Doug Jamison on Mr. Bojangles. Doug is from Gowrie, New South Wales. He'll be followed by 86, Kimberley Salmon on Yulgabar Can Rock Again. 87 is Hugh Miles on Destiny's Playgirl. 88, Colin Tetley on Hannaford Stud Blueprint.
So Doug Jameson and Mr. Bojangles right up the face of the camp. So Doug Jameson now. And the steer doesn't want to play the game today here on this Saturday morning.
A score for Doug and Mr. Bojangles of 16.33. In camp now is Kimberley Salmon on Yulgabar Can Rock Again. Kimberley's from Bow Desert in Queensland. She'll be followed by 87, Hugh Miles on Destiny's Playgirl. 88, Colin Tetney on Hannaford Stud Blueprint. 89 is Luke Whitehead on Lelucas Shanada.
So number 86 in the semi-final, Kimberley Salmon with Yulgabar Can Rock Again. Calls for the gate. Steps out into the main arena. Kimberley Salmon. Just sits off and waits the beast to come down, or just going to come in on the top side. So we'll go out with a cutout score only there for Kimberley.
A score for Kimberley and Yugelbar Canrock again, 22.33. In camp now is Hugh Miles from Tamworth in New South Wales. He'll be followed by 88 Colin Tetley on Hannaford Stud Blueprint, 89 Luke Whitehead on Leluca's Shenada, and 90 Tammy Fox on Divine Spin.
So Hugh Miles now with Destiny's Playgirl and gets himself the fast free-running steer. And we'll go out with a cutout score only here in the semi-final.
A score of 22 there for Hugh and Destiny's Playgirl. In camp now is Colin Tetley from Harold's Cross in New South Wales. He's riding Hannaford Stud Blueprint. He'll be followed by 89 Luke Whitehead on Leluca's Shenada, 90 Tammy Fox on Divine Spin, and 91 Ben McNaughton on Conway. There's only 9 riders left in this semi-final, and then we will wait and see who's made it into the grand final. And just to let all the State of Origin riders know that at the completion of this draft, if you could please meet here beside the camp, that would be fabulous at the completion of the semi-final.
So Colin Tetley calls for the gate, steps out into the arena on his way to the first peg here in the semi-final. And the steer's just having a look around this wonderful complex here of Willinga Park. Comes down around the bottom side, they'll do the changeover, they've got the first peg. Coming around the second, Colin Tetley, Hannaford Stud Blueprint. 3 out of 4 for the course. Makes his way heading up to try and get the extra point for course. And there goes the time and the stock whips.
A score there for Colin and Hannaford Stud Blueprint, 15.33, a 3 for course and a 49.67 for horsework, giving him a 68. In camp now, number 89, Luke White. Sorry, just to change to the above score. But in camp we have number 89, Luke Whitehead from Mummel in New South Wales. Luke's riding Leluca's Shenada, followed by number 90, Tammy Fox on Divine Spin.
So Luke Whitehead now makes his way out into the main arena and is going to go out with a cutout score only in the semi.
So just a correction to Colin Tetley's score on Hannaford Stud Blueprint, a 14, a 3 and a 49.67 for a 66.67. A score for Luke and Leluca's Shenada, a 21.67. In camp now is number 90, Tammy Fox on Divine Spin. Tammy's from Albion Park in New South Wales. She'll be followed by 91, Ben McNaughton on Conway, 92, Ian Hengstberger on Lazy D Mystified. 93 is Nat Walsh on Cos, and 94, Nigel Cable on Shadow.
Tammy Fox now with Divine Spin. Make their way out and comes there down around. And the steer's got different ideas and heads back over there towards the grandstands. And there goes the whips. We have 3 judges for the Volkswagen World Championship Gold Buckle Campdraft here at Willinga Park. And they've been Ian Laurie, Dean Taylor and Trader Wilson.
So in camp now we have number 91, Ben McNaughton on Conway. Ben's from Walker in New South Wales. He'll be followed by 92, Ian Hengstberger on Lazy D Mystified, 93, Nat Walsh on Cos, and 94, Nigel Cable on Shadow. Only 6 competitors to go now, 6 and Ben, to decide who makes the grand final this afternoon.
So Ben McNaughton now with Conway. Out around the first peg. Oh, very tight to it is. And he's got the judgment spot on Ben McNaughton this morning. And he's going to tighten things up around the second peg. Conway and Ben McNaughton says, I'm ready to go once you press the buttons, and just sits back a little bit and just trying to put himself in a perfect position. Now he takes him towards the gate. Ben McNaughton and Conway, can they find their way down through the middle? They can, Conway and Ben McNaughton.
A score for Ben and Conway, a 22, a 4 and a 63.33 for an 89.33, which slips him up into 5th. In the camp now, number 92, Ian Hengstberger on Lazy D Mystified. 93 at the gate is Nat Walsh on Cos, and 94, Nigel Cable on Shadow.
So Ian Hengstberger calls for the gate. He's about to step out into the arena. Oh, and the steer's got different ideas. He says, I want to go back to my cousins. Sees the opening now. Steps out into the beautiful arena in the sunlight. And is going to cut short the first peg, so we'll go with a cutout score only in the semi-final.
And a score there for Ian and Lazy D Mystified of 16.67. And I forgot to mention, Ian is from Dumbolk in Victoria. So in camp now, number 93, Natasha Walsh on Cos. Natasha's from Murray Bateman in New South Wales. She'll be followed by number 94, Nigel Cable on Shadow. 95, Michael Hayes on Jaguar. 96, Lockie Sim on Mini. And our final competitor of the Volkswagen World Championship Gold Buckle semi-final is number 97, Michael Hiscock on Mewburn Tip Top.
So Natasha Walsh now with Cos. Trying to line up this first peg. Natasha Walsh. Things were looking so good, but that can happen in any sport, and it happens in Campdraft as well.
A score for Natasha and Cos of 18.67. In camp now, number 94, Nigel Cable from Rydell in New South Wales. He'll be followed by 95, Michael Hayes on Jaguar.
Number 94 now, Nigel Cable with Shadow. Just gives the pole Hereford steer a little bit of a bump. Can he get him back? He's going to come inside. So we'll go with a cutout score only.
So a score there for Nigel and Shadow of 22. In the camp now is number 95, Michael Hayes on Jaguar. Michael's from Scone in New South Wales. He'll be followed by 96, Lockie Sim on Mini, 97, Michael Hiscock on Mewburn Tip Top. So just a reminder to the State of Origin competitors, if you can make your way around here between the warm-up arena and the camp after the completion of this event, please.
So Michael Hayes now with Jaguar. Right up the face of the camp, calls for the gate. They step out into the main arena. And around the first peg, they make their way. Michael Hayes just sits back now, lets the beast run on and lets Jaguar go now around the second peg. Just giving it a little bit of a bump. Just comes back away from him, sits back in behind. Going to ride hard now for the gate. Michael Hayes with Jaguar. Can Jaguar line it up? And Michael Hayes, yes they can.
A score there for Michael and Jaguar, a 22, a 4 and a 63 for an 89. In camp now, number 96, Lockie Sim on Mini. He's from Holbrook in New South Wales. He'll be followed by 97, Michael Hiscock on Mewburn Tip Top as our final competitor in the semi-final here today at Willinga Park. So unfortunately that's a no score there for Lockie and Minnie. Our final competitor into the camp, number 97, Michael Hiscock on Mewburn Tip Top. Michael's from Maffra in Victoria.
He's awake. Morning, Troy.
So at the completion of Michael's run, the ground will be manicured. And then after that short break, if we could have all the semi-finalists, which we will advise you shortly, all of the semi-finalists mounted, ready for the presentation from today's round. And then the final will then be drawn. Also, for the guys out in the arena, mounted. If you have 2 horses in the final, please only bring one to that final drawing in the arena. So the presentations and the draw of the final will be both done mounted in the arena, please.
Number 97 now, Michael Hiscock with Mewburn Tip Top. And around the first peg they come, and nicely done as well there, Michael Hiscock. round the first peg. They do the changeover, round the second. And Mewburn tip-top. Got it all under control now with Michael Hiscock. Just sits back. Now he's going to ride pretty hard for the gate. Moves up onto the booster's shoulder, and it's looking pretty good. It's near perfect. Michael Hiscock with Mewburn tip-top.
Top. What a way to finish. A score for Michael and Mewburn tip-top, a 22.67, a 4 for course, a 64.33 for horsework, giving him a 91, slipping him straight into the lead.
Hi, my name is Eric Lowy. I'm a veterinary surgeon at Willinga Park. So I graduated in the Netherlands at the University of Utrecht in 1998. I saw some practice as a student at the end of my studies, and practice I visited in the UK offered me a job, and sort of when I graduated I went straight to the UK to a practice which was sort of specialised in reproduction, or stud medicine, which sort of probably incorporates a bit more than just sort of looking at mares. So we saw a lot of mares, foals, stallions and all their related problems. That practice had a reciprocal arrangement with a practice in Australia. So my passion is reproduction, but I've sort of also spent a lot of time sort of dealing with foals, foal-related problems, if it is conformation or internal medicine. So sort of the surgical aspects of that sort of we built a lot of expertise with as well. The last number of seasons we already did a little bit of work for Willinga Park, and fortunately sort of we were successful in delivering the results Willinga Park was after. I think we've built up a sort of a great reputation in Warwick in sort of getting mares which have been difficult or in the past sort of haven't been delivering for owners sort of the result they were after. So sort of through the years we've sort of really built on that sort of success. We've managed to deliver to all those clients. This year we got quite a number of mares from Willinga, but also from clients which had sort of very valuable mares which Willinga invested in. I think we may be looking at 15 or 16 mares. Some mares will go straight in foal, other mares will try to attempt to get one embryo from, and some mares will maybe try to get multiple embryos from. I've been fortunate enough to sort of visit a lot of places sort of all over the world, and I think what's happening here is on a level that very few people can imagine, and we're feeling very fortunate to be part of this.
Some say we've got engine oil in our veins. After all, it takes some rare skills to settle a wild ute. And those that visit this place, well, they're transformed. Almost as much as the V6 Amaroks. You've got to see it to believe it. The only ute reared for the road.
So, with us here at the Campdraft, amazing place, Willinga Park, we've got Josh Gibson, ex-AFL Hawthorn player, now taking up camp drafting. Tell us about your interest in the sport. Where did that begin?
No, I grew up riding horses as a kid and obviously had to shelf that during my AFL career, but post-footy, some local guys that I had a horse that they were training showed me camp drafting, and I thought this is a good way to blow all your money and get around some blokes and have some beers and have some fun. And now here I am post-footy trying to learn something new.
It's an amazing sport. I mean, a little bit involved, but I've had a bit of a go occasionally, but nothing too serious. But it's an amazing sport. And the thing is, it encourages the whole family. It's like from little kids, there's classes right the way through. I mean, there's someone in their 70s there said they got the most amazing score. I'm sure he's on foresight. He'd have to be.
They'd have to be on foresight. But no, it is a great sport. And as you said, it's got the family aspect. And then from the competitive side, you know, you've got to look after your own mind, the horse's mind, and a beast. So it's very difficult. It's a sport you never master, but when it all comes together, it looks pretty nice.
Oh, when you see it done well, I mean, even when it's not done well, but I mean, the cutting out and everything, it's just amazing, and the amount of work that goes into training those horses is incredible. So tell us a little bit about Foresight and your involvement in that company.
Yeah, so Foresight's it's a natural supplement, and you know, it's used to prevent and treat joint injury and joint disease, osteoarthritis. So very exciting brand. You know, it's backed by 20 years of research, and you know, everyone in the horse game and now dog game are using it. And when you've got vets Australia-wide that, you know, recommend and you know, push your product, it's really exciting. So, yeah, we're really happy with where it's at and love that it can, you know, help these horses compete at this level.
Yeah, I know. I've got dressage horses involved with a stable of show jumpers, and it's a daily routine. Foresight, it just goes around to everybody, and we wouldn't do without it. I know so many people in every horse industry. And what about the human aspect? Now, I know there's so many different, for arthritis, I mean, just look at me, riding and playing sport all my life, and you with your football career. What about it being used now for humans?
Yeah, look, we do have the human product. We've got some fantastic research going on that side of things. We've been lucky to have we've just been presented at Aussie, which is, you know, one of the biggest. So let me start again. Look, we're very excited with the human side of things. We've been doing some great clinical trials, which is really exciting because we know that arthritis is such a big issue. You and I both suffer from it. So, look, we're really excited to push into that space, really backed off the fantastic signs we've seen in both canine and equine.
It is. I mean, it is an amazing product. I can vouch for it. I mean, I've seen it used. I've seen the results. Some people swear by it. I'm actually not using it. I think I better.
Yeah, you better. I've got some in the truck, so I'll have to come and drop you off some because everyone that's on it, you know, we get raving reviews about the differences they're seeing, and you know, that's what we're really chuffed as a business to see the way that we can impact people's lives, both horses as well, and see them performing better.
So how getting back to football versus camp drafting,
yeah.
I mean, it's a worlds apart.
It is. I feel like I'm trying to be the true blue Aussie. So they say there's 3 sports Australians invented, which is polo cross, camp drafting and AFL. So I've ticked 2 of them off. I'm on a mission. I'm 66% of the way there.
You just got to keep yourself sound, that's all.
That's why I'm on Foresight.
For sure. So the exciting thing, you actually camp drafted it yourself already?
Yeah, look, I do. I'm back towards Ballarat way, so the SCA and also the GCA down there, and I love the sport. I'm definitely sucked in, so it's great that work also coincides and aligns with camp drafting because I sort of get to do the best of both there. But no, love the sport, forever learning, and you know, excited to keep it as a hobby.
I mean, it just amazes me, you know, like you say, you've got your horse, you've got your own mind, you've got your horse's mind, and you've got a beast as well. It's an incredible, and when you see people that do it really well, it just looks like it's another day at the office. It's so easy. But I'm surprised how many people actually get around here clean, and you see some of those country camp drafts, and you know, when someone goes around, it's a miracle.
Yeah, look, you've got the best of the best here, and you know, best of the best riders, and you got the best horses going around, and as you say, you watch them here, and they really do make some of these beasts look like they're on autopilot, but they're not. It's the skill of these riders along with these incredible horses.
So have you been to Willinga Park before?
I haven't. This is my first time here.
And?
Oh, I couldn't believe it when I pulled in the gates yesterday. I've watched it on live before and was watching it on the way up, but when you pull in here and get to see the grandstand and the way it lit up last night, if people are into horse sports, whichever it's equestrian or Western pleasure, you need to get here and experience this facility.
Have you been for a trip round yet?
No, I promise you, everyone's like, get on the bus trip and go have a look. So I'm really excited to have a look because it's the best facility.
I mean, to be part of this sport, and this is the most money-winning competition in Campdraft in Australia, in fact the world really, because it's so Australian, but the money associated, I mean $100,000 to win is just incredible, almost like AFL.
I know, $286,000 in total prize money, and as you said, the winner gets 100. It's very special, and we're lucky that we get to spend 3 or 4 days here on this facility, and you just need to look at the way they're going around that arena. It's stunning.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for your time, Josh, and good luck with Foresight. And also, thanks to Foresight for all your sponsorship, not only in the camp drafting world. I know you've got quite a few sponsored rides here, but also in all the other sports, show jumping and dressage, you name it. Foresight's everywhere. And again, for your sponsorship of live streaming that you've done for Equestrian Life in the past, we truly appreciate it so much, because without you guys, we wouldn't be live streaming.
No, look, we're happy to partner with great companies as yourself. And as we said, we love all things equine and canine. So if we can sponsor a heap of it, we're pretty happy.
Thanks so much for your time, Josh. Go and enjoy the camp draft.
Thanks very much.
Cheers.
Troy Palmer, Bruce McNaughton, Tim Hollis and Michael Hayes. If those competitors can make their way into the arena, please, for the presentation of the semi-final round. So come on, competitors. So Michael Hiscock, Luke Bennett, Hugh Miles, Mark Buttsworth, Bill Carey, Steve Kaminsky, Troy Palmer, Ben McNaughton, Bruce McNaughton, Tim Hollis, Michael Hayes. So the winner of the semi-final, and the presentation will be done by one of our camp drafting judges, Dean Taylor, to Michael Hiscock on a score of 91. Second place to Luke Bennett on 90.67. So Michael Hiscock was first with Mewburn Tip Top on a score of 91. Second place to Luke Bennett on Stereo Cat on 90.67. Equal third was Hugh Miles, Torelli Treasured Acres and Mark Buttsworth, Peps Double Ray, both on 90 points. Fifth place was Bill Carey's Imprint on 89.67. Equal sixth was Steve Kaminsky's Lara Park Sigma, Troy Palmer's Benia Impressive Destiny and Ben McNaughton's Conway, all on 89.33. And equal ninth on 89 points was Troy Palmer's Hells Are Coming, Bruce McNaughton's Little Acre, Tim Hollis Adios Florence and Michael Hayes with Jaguar, all on 89 points. So our two of our camp drafting judges, Dean Taylor and Trader Wilson, doing the presentation to the winner and place getters of the semi-final. So competitors, it won't be long until the 27 finalists will line up in the arena. They will do their own draw. We'll give them a nice round of applause there, ladies and gentlemen, as they make their way up. They're the winner of the semi-final, leading into the grand final. Michael Hiscock first, Luke Bennett second, equal third, Hugh Miles, Mark Buttsworth. Fifth place to Bill Carey. Equal sixth, Steve Kaminsky, Troy Palmer, Ben McNaughton. And equal ninth, Troy Palmer, Bruce McNaughton, Tim Hollis and Michael Hayes. So it won't be long and we'll line the 27 competitors up that are going into the grand final. They will be called forward and draw their number going for the grand final of the Volkswagen World Championship Gold Buckle Camp Draft. Who will it be in 2021? So those competitors, could you come back into the arena, please, and we'll do the draw. You'll do your own draw for the grand final of the Volkswagen World Championship Gold Buckle Camp Draft for 2021. So we need Michael Hiscock, Luke Bennett, Hugh Miles, Mark Buttsworth, Bill Carey, Steve Kaminsky, Troy Palmer, Ben McNaughton, Bruce McNaughton, Tim Hollis, Michael Hayes, John Mulcahy, Peter Bolton, Felicity Burton, Dean Rogers, Kimberly Salmon, Julie Duff, Mark Buttsworth, Ben McNaughton. Susie Denastis, Wyatt Young, Jay Shannock, Simon Dodwell, Gus Malone. Mark Buttsworth, could you just come forward, please, Mark? Mark Buttsworth, could you just come forward? Here we go. So Mark Buttsworth has the first dip because of 3 horses in the grand final. So Mark Buttsworth with Branchvale Exile is number 24 in the draw. Mark Buttsworth with Electric Duck is number 8. And Mark Buttsworth with Pep's Double Ray is number 2. Troy Palmer, would you come forward, please, Troy? Benny, this is the draw for Benny Impressive Destiny with Troy Palmer. And he is drawn number 19. And for Troy Palmer with Hills Are Coming, he is number 12. And for Troy Palmer with Jabel Shakira Spin is number 20. Okay, he's got to put it back in. He's got to be 5 apart. I could say something to Troy here because I have done a draw for him before. So it'll be number 23. So Ben McNaughton, you come forward please, Ben. Ben McNaughton. This is the draw for Conway. Is number 21 for Conway. This is for Tiptoe. Is number 27 for Tiptoe. Okay, Michael Hiscock, come forward please. We're going from the top now. Michael Hiscock. He is number 6. Michael Hiscock with Mewburn Tip Top. Luke Bennett now with Stereo Cat. He is number 17 with Stereo Cat, Luke Bennett. Hugh Miles. And why we done those other couple of competitors earlier because they had multiple horses in the grand final. Hugh Miles with Torelli Treasured Acres is number 25. Bill Carey. This is for Imprint. Bill Carey puts his hand in the hat. Number 16 for Imprint and Bill Carey. Steve Kaminsky. This is for Lara Park Sigma. is number 18 for Lara Park Sigma, Bruce McNaughton. This is for Little Acre, Bruce McNaughton. That'll be number 9 for a Little Acre and a Bruce McNaughton, Tim Hollis. Tim Hollis with Adios Florence is number 4, Michael Hayes. Is number 10, John Mulcahy. John Mulcahy, this is for Just an Acre. Number 5, Peter Bolton. Peter Bolton. This is the draw for the grand final. They do their own draw with Nandai Reflect. Is number 20 for Nandai Reflect, Felicity Burton. Felicity Burton with El Solar Ray. And Felicity comes up with number 3, Dean Rogers. This is for Archie, Dean Rogers and Archie. And we'll just wait for the seagull to fly in and pick that piece of paper up. Dean Rogers with Archie. Number 7, Kimberly Salmon. Number 11 for Kimberly, and that was for Juliet's Romeo, Julie Duff. And this is for raving about this hat. Number 15 for Julie Duff. Susan Danastis. Susan Danastis. So Susan Danastis with Lily Roan, 13. White Young. Jay Shannock. Number 1. It's got to go to someone and it's gone to White Young with Benny Upmaleen. Now Jay Shannock with Hollywood Pepto. Number 26, Simon Dodwell. With Kaylee Park Pearl, Simon Dodwell. Number 22 for Simon. And Gus Malone with Oakview Isabel. is number 14. So they are the grand finalists to take place. In a little while, the draw will be done, and won't be too long, and then we'll be underway with the grand final of the Volkswagen World Championship Gold Buckle Campdraft. So the grand finalists, they have done their own draw. Who will it be for 2021?